All right, guys, what's up? So this is going to be the lesson 6.12.2, day one, which has to do with the objective of distributing and factoring expressions. So if you already had the class, then this is more like review. But if you did not have the class yet, this is today's lesson. Okay. So first of all, we're going to just go straight to the example of what a distributive property is. Okay. So if you look here, you have these two things here. So let me kind of erase this part right here. You have A parentheses B plus C, right? Equals A times B plus A times C parentheses, okay? So this is saying that when you multiply A times B, right, you're going to get AB, okay, right here. And then when you multiply A again, because you got to distribute that outer number here, or outer variable, and you multiply it by C, it says that when you multiply that, you're going to get AC, okay? And then all you have to do is make sure that, when you multiply a positive and a positive, you get a positive, and then a positive, positive, you still get a positive. That's why there's a positive right here. Right here, right, it's a little different. The only difference is that there's a negative right there, or a minus sign. So if I were to, again, multiply A and B, well, you get AB, and then if you multiply that times the C, you get AC, but also because this is a negative and a positive, I'm sorry, if this is a negative, I'm sorry, positive and a negative, you're still going to get a negative AC, okay? It's just like using numbers. So if I had, say, 5 times, I don't know, B, not B, sorry, what if you have 5 times 2 minus 2? So if you were to multiply 5 times 2, you get what? You get 10. And then if you multiply 5 again, or distribute it, you could use distribute because it's the same thing as saying multiply. You're going to get a negative 10, because a positive times a positive is a positive, and then a positive times a negative is a negative 10. So, and if I wanted to, I can box the inside just to show you, right? Because some of you guys need to see, if you box these two here, you put a line right there. Here's a positive, negative. So a positive times a positive times a negative. Okay, cool. Let's go on to the actual problem. So the first step here is to identify the number outside of the parentheses. The number outside of parentheses is either going to be a positive or a negative. So when you look here, it's a positive, right? So I'm going to circle that, and we know that it's a positive 3. Now, the second step after we identify it, right, we're going to multiply the number outside by both terms in the parentheses. So if you look at this whole expression here, here's a term, right? Here's a term, and here's a term, okay? So we're going to multiply the number outside. What's the number outside? 3. And then we're going to multiply it by both terms. So we're going to multiply 3 times 2x. So first of all, what's 3 times 2? It's 6. And then what's 3 times, I'm sorry, what happens, what else do you have to pull down? You have to pull down the x, okay? And then you're going to take 3 and multiply it by this right here. So what's 3 times a positive 7? It's going to be a positive 21. Please do not leave out the positive, because if you do, what happens? It's going to be like this, 6x 21. And this doesn't look like this, right? It looks like multiplication. You do not want that, okay? Make sure you add that positive. And again, if you would like me to do this, right, if you want to box it to see how we got that, look, you just put a line after a variable, a line after the number or the constant, and you see 3 times 2x is 6x, 3 times positive 7 is 21, or positive 21, okay? Now it says write the complete expression. We already did that. Here it is, the complete expression. All right, so this one here is a little different. Why? Because in step 1, it says identify the number outside, right? Well, is it going to be a positive or a negative? Well, look, it's a negative. So this is a negative, right? It's a negative 2. Okay, we identify that. We're good. And then step 2 here says to multiply the number outside, which was the negative 2, by both terms here, right, in the parentheses. So again, easy. You multiply this times this, and then you multiply this times this, right? This term and this term. So what happens when you multiply a negative 2 and a 3? A negative times a positive is going to give you what? A negative 6. And then when you multiply a negative times a positive again, what should you get? 2 times 4, first of all, is what? An 8. But because it's a negative and a positive, it's going to be a negative. And here is the x here. You got to pull that down, right? Add that variable to that coefficient. So now you have negative 6 minus 8x. Okay? So you have to be careful because a negative times a positive is a negative as well. Okay? Cool. Let's move on to the second part of the day, which is going to be factoring. Okay? Let me see here. Where's the factoring? Here it is. I will be able to use factoring to rewrite the expression as a product. We're going to go opposite now. Okay, so earlier, what did we do? We went from like a product here, multiplication, to expression, right? These are both expressions, but this is multiplication. This is more like adding, but you can't. Yeah, these are more like adding. So we're going to go backwards now. We're going to go this way. Okay, so let me show you this. So first of all, the first step here, so this is a different step. The first step is to identify the greatest common factor for both terms in the expression. So how do you do that? Well, the way to do that is you have to, first of all, figure out what the greatest common factor for 12 and 4 is, right? I know there's an x here, but don't worry about that right now. So you're going to write down 12. If you forgot how to do factoring, here it is. And you're going to write down 4, right? And then you're going to lay out the factors of 12 and then lay out the factors of 4. So what are the factors of 12? What two numbers, when you multiply, give you 12? Well, we know that 1 times 12 will give us 12. We know that 2 times 6 will give us 12. We know 3 times 4 will give us 12, and then 4. Does 5 do that? No. Does 6 do that? Yeah, 6 times 2. And then we know that we just go all the way to 12, right? Because these are the only numbers that when you multiply them, you can get a 12. And then you can use, for 4 here, what factors when you multiply equal 4? Well, 1, 2, and 4, right? So now, what is the greatest common factor? What is the greatest common factor? Which means, which one has the biggest number here? Is it 1? No. They have it in common, but it's not the biggest one. They have 2 in common. But yeah, look at here. It stops at 4, right? So therefore, the greatest common factor is going to be 4, okay? So we identified that the greatest common factor is 4. So we did step 1. Number 2, we need to divide both the terms by the greatest common factor. Again, these are terms, right? If I box it, how many terms do we have? We have one term and another term here. We have a variable and a coefficient, and then we have a constant number here, right? Without a variable. So divide both terms by the greatest common factor. So what is the greatest common factor? Well, it's going to be 4. So let me erase the box here because I just want to show you what that looked like. So we're going to go ahead and divide the 12x by the greatest common factor, which is 4. And then we're going to divide positive 4 by 4 as well. Okay, so these are the greatest common factors here. So now we're going to go to step number 3. Step 3 says rewrite the expression, okay, with the greatest common factor outside of the parentheses and the new expression inside of the parentheses. So this is what it looks like. So if I'm going to write the greatest common factor outside, I'm going to go ahead and first of all draw a parentheses. Okay, so what is the greatest common factor again? It's 4. So I'm going to write 4 on the outside of the parentheses. And then, so we did this one, I'm going to write the new expression inside of the parentheses. So what goes inside here? Well, what's 12x divided by 4? It's going to be 12 divided by 4 is going to be what? It's going to be 3, right? But because there's an x here, you're going to go ahead and write the x. And then what's 4 divided by 4? It's going to be 1. But remember, you have to put that positive, right? Or it's going to look weird. See, as you can see, we rewrote this addition problem as a multiplication problem, right? You see that parentheses there. Now, this is the answer, okay? This is a new expression or a new product. How do we know if this is correct? Well, if you were to go ahead and multiply, say, 4 and 3x, what do you get? You get 12x. And then if you were to multiply 4 and 1, what do you get? You get a positive 4. Isn't that the same thing that you started off with right here? So there you go. Hopefully you guys understood this, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and we will see you next time. Peace, y'all.